almost everything I've said to you, you know, in generalities, you've seen it to be true. They're in great shape. You saw them in great shape. They look a lot better. They look a lot better. I told you somebody looked really big. He looked really big. I told you some guys are redefined their bodies. They redefine their bodies. So, you know, I think that most importantly, there's been no negative surprises, and that usually is the biggest problem you have when all of a sudden some surprise comes up you don't mind when the surprise is a positive. Yeah, the problem is when the surprise is a negative, and there's been none of those at this point, so that means the arrow just keeps gradually pointing up.
Have you had any positive surprises?
That was, you know, you just took that,
Easy,
Matt.
right?
You took totally advantage of me on that one. You know, there's been a lot, I've been encouraged by in several areas, but you know, it's so across the board. You know, it's so across the board that we have so many, not just holes to fill, but questions that are unanswered. So we have to keep on trying to answer questions. You know, I told you all the way back in the spring that the defensive line and the defense was going to look different once we got to the summer, and it does. I mean, and that's with two guys not here yet, and it looks significantly different. And the depth at every position looks different now. It looks different in the secondary. It looks different at the linebackers. You know, it looks different up front. You know, like every position now has, even, you know, the tight end position looks totally different now when you throw Ragone and Charles Brooks into the mix. You know, even the wide receiver position with Josh Ford coming in and Trey Parmalee coming in. I mean, Josh isn't the only one competing. Trey Parmalee is actually competing, you know, for playing time. So Turner Beatty getting in here. So we have another guy competing at the quarterback position. So, you know, across the board, I'd say that the only guy that stayed was an incumbent, and you know, I don't see an easy answer to beating him out as Doherty, because he's still our best kicker and he's still our best punter. Now he has competition, but he's still our best in both of those. What I'm trying to do is try to get a guy that can at least kick off, to take off that strain, and that guy might not even be here yet. You know, we're, you know, like I always do, I'm working every angle I can to try to find that answer, and we have a couple. You know, we're talking to the local, to the rugby club. We're talking to the soccer club, the guys that practice against the women. I mean, you know, out of 30,000 people in this school, there's got to be somebody that can kick the ball off out of the end zone. You know, and maybe it's one of the guys we currently have, but we'll have to see that. And if not, we're going to find whoever that person is, wherever they are. We're going to find.
Were you happy with the intensity?
I think that anytime you put pads on for the first time, you get some people who are Superman and some people who are Mighty Mouse. You know, so you get two ends of the spectrum, and then some people have to learn the tempo of each drill. Like because you put pads on doesn't mean you go take them to the ground on every play. So they need to understand the difference between tempos so that you can practice hard and at the same time take care of your teammates. Because you need to have live periods every day where you can cut, because you got to get used to learning how to cut, and the defenders have to get used to taking on the cut block, but it's also a high risk. So when that happens right there, you have to make sure you practice it, but you don't practice it for the whole practice. So we went full pads again this morning, you know, after yesterday afternoons. So that was probably the toughest transition they've had so far, because they had a late, you know, they get off the field at 5:30 yesterday, and 9 o'clock this morning they're in full pads again and doing the same thing all over again. So I think now they're getting into phase 2. We just finished the acclimatization period, the 5 days of acclimatization. Now we're in the 2-a-day, 1-a-day schedule. So now it's the next form of transition that they have to get used to.